It is Saturday, May 7th, 2022. This is Raven Dana, and welcome to Walking Between the Worlds. I've been thinking a lot for the past few days about what I wanted to post next, and it's become so obvious to me that what we need, and I really mean this, we need to reawaken our sense, our intuition, our soul level connection with each other and with nature and with the invisible worlds. Our ancestors had much more skill because their busy minds weren't as much in the way. We unfortunately tend to live in our heads, and we hold intellect up as the crowning and shining star of humankind. But unfortunately, even though our intellect and our mind is a great tool, and Lord knows we need our intellect, what we've done is we've sacrificed our connections with the deep and with the dream world and with the mysterious, and it is costing us. It might cost us our lives. That feeling of disconnection, that belief that we are not intimately and permanently intertwined with nature and with each other, leaves us at tremendous risk because we do things that harm us, harm nature, harm our planet, harm life itself. And we've also, and again, I really like to play in that place where science and magic come together. So there was a time when they were essentially interwoven, married, right? They played with each other. There was a place where the mysterious lived and dwelled, and we gained from those things, where information would rise from the deep, and we would much more be willing to trust that information, that intuition, that guidance. Some of the things today that we talk about as extrasensory or paranormal gifts or experiences. People, for example, who are really good at the skill of remote viewing. I met and took a training class with Lynn Buchanan, who is in the original government created program of remote viewers. And essentially, it is a training that helps us to reconnect with that ability of going into our deep unconscious mind and traveling to those locations, those places, those targets, in order to bring back information. Now, we call it remote viewing now, but I'm here to tell you that our ancestors could do this kind of thing. There are plenty of stories of individuals who would map a territory by quote-unquote dreaming and flying above the landscape. So I just want to make the point that we are, even though we are in some ways coming back around to exploring our deeper levels of skills and awareness, giving them new names, giving them more of a scientific approach, there is much to be said and much to be had about being still in our minds and attending to the information that rises from the deep part of our awareness. And not just information, but the ability to have a knowing about something. And sometimes we do have that knowing, and sometimes we ignore it, and it doesn't work so well for us. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if we actually reclaimed that skill, that ability to feel and know, and leaned into that, we could create far more balance in our lives and in the world. We would be informed on a level of experience, not just knowledge, but on a level of awareness that we, in fact, are connected in an inseparable way to each other and to nature herself. And that experience is life-changing. That experience moves us from a place where we can damage, where we can cause harm to each other and the earth, to a place where we are more able, more willing, and more interested in cooperating and in creating, co-creating the kind of world that is sustainable, that we actually want to live in. So my proposal to you is to do a little research and a little reading about people who have a lot of skill in those arenas. And not because you want to compare yourself to them and say, well, I'm never going to play, I'm never going to be a pianist I'm never going to be Tchaikovsky. I'm never going to be, right? So we're not trying to do that. I'm not suggesting that you are going to suddenly, although it could happen, and I know people for whom it has happened, but I'm not suggesting that you're going to suddenly awaken some tremendous ability to be a medium or to find things at a distance, or I'm not suggesting that, even though it might happen occasionally for people. What I am suggesting is that you look at whatever skill you may have, you acknowledge it, and you lean into it. So my suggestion is to read some about people who have had tremendous abilities, who have tremendous skill, and to take a look at how that might just inspire you, might encourage you to look in a new direction, might encourage you to recognize that the conscious mind that we have, the mind that we use in our daily lives, is very small. It is literally the tip of the iceberg, when what's below the water, what's below, has tremendous power and potential. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Garden of Fintorn, but I would suggest that you take a look at that. The Garden of Fintorn is a community of individuals who originally started out putting in this fabulous garden in a place where pretty much people thought nothing could grow. And how they did what they did was by having direct contact with the plants and what they call the nature spirits. And again, this is something that most of us have in our ancestry, that most of our great-great-grandparents have had some experience with woodland creatures or elves or gnomes or whatever you want to call them. So I'm not concerned about the label, because it's enough to know that something is out there, right? There is something, and there are beings that live between the worlds. There are nature spirits. There is a sentience that everything on this planet has. And if we allow ourselves to be aware, to greet that sentience, to not dismiss everything that's not human as less than or as not quite alive in the same way, because we do all these screwy things in our minds to justify making our lives somehow more important than every other life on the planet. But I want you to lean into it a little bit to develop your own level of skill. There's a person, his name is, he's dead now, he's passed now, but his name was Ted Owens, and he's had a book written about him because he had this tremendous skill of influencing the weather. And again, it's one man, it's one book, there's a lot of evidence, but, and he wasn't, I'll say he wasn't the greatest human being using that skill, because he caused some havoc with it as well. But the fact that people exist that can communicate with and influence the weather, this is not something new. This is something that we know from Native American culture. This is something that we have seen in other places in the world. So again, I'm not suggesting that you go up and try to call out a storm. I'm suggesting that these deep connections that we have with the natural world and the invisible world are part of what we are as human beings. That what we are, I am committed in this experience with you and the things that I put up. What I'm committed to is to help us open up our awareness of what it is to be a human being, and to tap more deeply into those roots of what we're capable of, to give ourselves and each other greater permission to experience the mystic, the ethereal, the unknown, in a way that we're not trying to categorize it or figure it out or label it, but rather experience it. What does it bring to the table? What does it bring into your life to have an experience of meeting or talking with a person that has died? What does it bring to your life to have experiences where you can feel the sentience of trees? What does it bring to your life to have the experience of knowing, of intuiting what to do, how to heal something in your body that your doctor hasn't been able to figure out? Because I know people who can do those things. So whatever your particular, some people like to draw, some people like to sing, some people like to dance, but they're all, we'll call them manifestations of creativity. Well, this is much like that. Whatever your particular skill is, I'm just encouraging you to lean into it, to uncover it, to give yourself permission to pay attention to your dreams, to your intuition, to the lights you see in the sky, to the strange things you see at the foot of your bed at night, to the things you see out of the corner of your eye that you try to dismiss, but you know something is there. So that's really my purpose for today's conversation, is just to invite you to do a little reading and research and to play in that area. I watched this TV show last night. It was on Netflix, and it was called Life After Death. Tyler, I can't think of his last name, but it's a story, it's a series about a medium, a young man who is a medium, and his practice, the way that he gets in contact, is very, very interesting to me, because he scribbles, he writes, he draws. And he, in the course of the first couple of episodes, also did some remote viewing and also did some fact-finding for someone who was investigating how someone died. So it's not only that he was a medium and able to contact the deceased, he also had a broader range of skills about reaching through time and space and seeing what was there. And he spoke a bit, in fact, about remote viewing and what it is and what it was. And what struck me about it is that his drawing, his scribbling, is part of what remote viewing training includes. It's a way of drawing a line, drawing some what we would call scribbles, but they're not. Drawing something on paper and then using that in order to tap into what our deep unconscious is telling us. So I found it fascinating. You might find it fascinating. Netflix, Life After Death. In any event, there are plenty of things that we can experience that, if we just open ourselves in the moment, can be life-changing in a good and positive way. And I'm put into I had this experience once. I'm that person that runs out into the thunderstorm because I like them. I like the sound, I like the lightning, I like the wind, I enjoy it. I find it, I don't know, thrilling. And in any event, one day there was a storm coming in, and I drove to the lake. I live close to Lake Erie, and it was remarkable because the sun was setting, so it had just popped out, and there was a very small space without clouds on the horizon, and the sun was in that little space. And so over my head and behind me, it was raining, and it was filled with dark clouds. So when the sun popped out, there was a double rainbow, and then over it, the slight shadow of a triple rainbow. At first I got out of my car and with my umbrella, and it was ridiculous. I lost the umbrella. I just got wet. It was in August. It was warm. It was raining, and this triple rainbow was astonishing. And because it was still raining, behind the rainbows, it was lightning, and the lightning was purple. I can't tell you, I can't describe to you in words what that experience was like. I felt as if I was literally standing in a doorway between worlds, and I imagine that I was. And in that moment, I had this awareness that I can't do justice to it in words, but I had this awareness of the connections between who we are as human beings and how we are interfaced with nature, with weather, with the changes of the earth, with the growth and death of things. I had this profound moment of knowing that, quite frankly, stays with me to this day. That one of the reasons I'm going to do a class for you on the trees comes from that moment of experiencing the sentience of all the trees that were around me. And I've always had a connection with trees, even as a child. But this was different. This was as though in that moment, all the barriers were gone. And I was able to greet the trees and the clouds and the grass and the lake as actual sentient beings that saw me and I saw them. It was a very profound moment. And also, I think that we let those moments slide. We think about, am I going to get wet? Am I going to get struck by lightning? Am I going to, again, I think when we have an opportunity for a moment, we ought to take that moment. We ought to take it and see where it leads us. So in any case, I'm going to encourage you to take a look at some things and to play a little bit in the realm of what's possible and to explore your own dreams and to explore your own intuition, because we need it. We need to reclaim that, the spirit of what we are, and to work with that deep ability that we have to know things that we don't have to prove them. We just can know some things. And again, this is not about, favoring intuition over science. They both play together. But this is a place where we can reclaim and restore some of our own deep gifts and awarenesses. And I hope that you take a look at a few things and maybe do a little reading and research and meditating and play a bit with your own level of skill. So that's it for today. I just wanted to talk a bit about reawakening ourselves to our deeper abilities and to our more profound connections with each other and with the natural world around us. So happy May to you. Happy Mother's Day tomorrow. And please feel free to contact me, ravendana55@gmail.com, and let me know what you think. Let me know what your skill is. Let me know how I can help you develop your awakening, your awareness, the reclaiming of your own soul, and your ability to walk between the worlds. Have a great afternoon, and thanks for listening.